All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session on personalizing instruction with branch learning in PlayPosit. Today's February 1st, 2024, and my name is Dylan Blatt. We're going to get started in just a moment. But as you are joining or watching, please go ahead and make sure you're logged into your learning management system if you would like to kind of work alongside me during today's session. Additionally, if you have the chance, please share in our chat your experience level with PlayPosit. That could be a 1 if you've never used the tool, which is great. We'll introduce you to that today. 2 if you've used it before, but looking to get a little bit more experience and skills here. And then 3 is you use it regularly in your instructional practice. So I'll give everybody about a minute to join us here, get set up in their LMS to follow along and share their experience level in the chat. And thanks again for joining us today and welcome. Awesome. Danielle has used it regularly. David, good to see you. I love the precision with your experience level there. A little bit of room for growth. Excellent. And as we're starting as well, we have an interactive handout that goes with today's session. So I will have that in the chat here as well to share. And thank you, Ryan, for the bit.ly link there. Perfect. Well, we're going to go ahead and get officially started now. So thanks for that experience level there in the chat. Looks like we've got a lot of folks who have used PlayPosit, but maybe looking to get a little more familiar with some of the branch learning strategies. And yes, Ryan K is joining us behind the scenes as well. Awesome. So with that, just a quick introduction on who I am. Some of you may know me from working together, but my name is Dylan Blatt, Customer Success Manager here at PlayPosit, which is powered by WeVideo. I'm an instructional design resource for you all. I work with K-12 districts around the country, as well as some higher ed institutions to help folks get the most out of using PlayPosit to enhance learning and instruction. So that's my background. We'll get right into it. Here's the agenda for today's webinar session. We will be starting with just a brief overview of PlayPosit for those who are newer to the tool and looking to get a sense of what it offers and why you might use it. The main piece of today's webinar session is really around branch learning use cases and demoing how to set those up. There's really 2 types, so we'll kind of divide those and talk about them separately: choice-driven branching and then consequence-driven branching. And then at the end, I'll be sharing a few of our resources to help support you along the way. And we'll make some time at the end for Q&A. But if you have questions as we are learning together today, feel free to put those in the chat. You do not need to wait until the very end to ask any questions. So that's the plan. Let's get to it. Starting with the PlayPosit overview. And so for those who are newer to PlayPosit, it's really an instructional design studio at its core. You can launch it within your learning management system, such as Canvas or Schoology. And then you can select a video from either a private host that you have access to or a third-party source like YouTube or Vimeo. And then from there, you can add questions and interactions within the video timeline. So that's kind of the high-level overview of what PlayPosit is. It's a really powerful design studio. You do have some really advanced features available, but we do believe that it's very user-friendly for teachers and other folks who are using the tool. And so when you are inside of PlayPosit, you can do a lot of customization around the way you build questions and responses, add feedback, all the locations in PlayPosit that you're crafting questions and answers have the rich text editor where you can add audio clips, you can add images, and what we're focusing on today is you're able to add jumps to interactions and to answers as well, so that learners have branched pathways for their learning. So that's really going to be our focus, is that jump feature to differentiate and personalize the instruction for today. Now, before we go any further, for those who are newer to the tool, you do need one piece of vocabulary to help today, and that is the word bulb, which is really just our end product in PlayPosit. So a bulb is the interactive video that you create inside of the PlayPosit platform, and it can be assigned in a few different ways: asynchronously, so kind of at the learner's self-paced mode, and then synchronously using our broadcast functionality, or what's called a learner-made bulb, where the learner is the one creating the interactive video and submitting that individually. But for today's session, we are going to focus on the self-paced asynchronous delivery, since that's our most popular use case and also applies here well to our branched learning content. So again, bulb is just an interactive video created within PlayPosit, and that is what we'll be working on today. All right. Now, you might be wondering, why would someone use PlayPosit? What are some of the benefits of using the tool? Well, here is the foundational benefits. There are really three main ones, which are accountability, accessibility, and content digestion. And so in terms of accountability, we have the ability to disable fast forward and skipping. We can monitor the last watched timestamp of our learners. And we have what's called the active tab player, so that if a learner switches to another tab or window, the video will automatically pause to make sure they are staying present. We take accessibility very seriously at WeVideo and PlayPosit, and so we have interactive searchable transcripts in the sidebar view. We have the ability to enable closed captions, and we are screen reader compatible and WCAG 2.3 compliant. In terms of content digestion, we have the embedded notepad for learners to take timestamp notes. They can export the report of all the interactions and notes that they've taken as well at the end of the bulb experience, and teachers can actually monitor those notes as well. The best thing about these features here that I'm talking about are these are all sort of out of the box provided inside of PlayPosit before you even add any interactions. So once you add a video, these are available for learners right off the bat. So those are some of the foundational benefits and the why behind using PlayPosit. To give you just a brief couple of examples of ways that people commonly use the tool. Here's three. One is a skills practice. And so we can make our individual practice a bit more effective through just a direct instruction video, plus setting up those check for understanding or practice questions after that video. And you can scale that out to multiple learners throughout the year or over the course of several years and reuse that skills practice and that content. You can also build in feedback that gets automatically shared with learners there as well. In terms of the interactive video lecture, this is a really popular use case. You take a direct instruction video, and then to maximize the content digestion, you add those checkpoint questions throughout and gain the qualitative insights because you're collecting the data on the way learners engage with that video and with the questions and resources that you've shared on top of it. And then the last one here, also really popular, is the lecture discussion. So we kind of start out with a framing of what the lesson is going to be, share that video or that lecture, and then add a discussion interaction for learners to engage with their peers as well as with their instructor and go deeper on discussing that particular topic. So those are three of the most popular asynchronous use cases, but these are by no means the only ones available, just kind of the tip of the iceberg here. So I thought I would share those with you all. That's the end of our section on PlayPosit overview. And so if you're wanting to learn a little bit more on that piece, I would go to that handout that was shared, and you can dive a little deeper into some of the getting started resources. But for now, we are going to get to the main topic of the day, which is branched learning use cases. And so to start, I do need to give you a bit of a background on the difference between choice-driven branching and consequence-driven branching. So we're going to see those two different types of scenarios. Choice-driven is the situation where learners see their options and they make a selection with the outcome in mind. So they have that learner autonomy to choose where they want to go with the particular lesson. So kind of putting the learner in the driver's seat there. When we say consequence-driven branching, we're talking about learners experiencing the pathway based on correct or incorrect answers. So in other words, they're responding to a question with the answer they think is correct, and then based on the response, they will be placed at the appropriate timestamp based on their level of understanding. So choice-driven, they choose where they're going to go with the lesson. Consequence-driven, the response they provide will change where they go with that particular bulb or interactive video. Okay, so that's the context. Choice-driven branching can kind of live out in three main ways inside of PlayPosit. So the three ways I'm going to talk about for today and that I would recommend are: one, the table of contents. So this is exactly what it sounds like. It's a sidebar showing all the elements of the bulb that learners can engage with, giving them that transparency of what they're going to experience. And then they can click on that section and it's hyperlinked so they can jump right to that part of the video, almost like reading a book, but automatically flipping to the page that you choose. And so that is actually a template that we have access to, and I'll share more about that in a bit. The pro tip for that piece is to add it at the end of your bulb creation so that everything you've created gets automatically pulled into your table of contents. So that's one way we can have choice-driven branching. Another is through our pause interaction, which is super versatile, and we are allowed to use that to create a jump button. So I'll show you how to do that as well. And that will give sort of the option for learners to click a button and jump straight to a certain part of the video. And then the last one is the poll, which looks like a multiple choice question, but there's no correct or incorrect answer. It's just a series of choices that learners can click to then choose where they want to go with the learning. And that also allows for embedding feedback as well and additional resources within each choice. So those are the three main things we're going to talk about when it comes to choice-driven branching. Excuse me. The way I'm going to show this now is I want to talk a little more about each of these. Then I'm going to demo all three of those options for choice-driven branching. And after that piece of the demo, we'll come back and talk about consequence-driven and then demo that as well. So kind of chunking the way we look at this together today. All right, let's start with the table of contents here. So the table of contents can be found inside of our interaction menu here, which you're seeing on the left. And when you click on that option, it is going to be a template form. So it'll automatically pull in all the interactions and resources that you have built out inside of the bulb into that table of contents. From there, you're able to actually edit the titles, edit the names of each section or the links as well. And those links will kind of remain live to jump to those timestamps inside the video. So this is a really great option for providing choice for learners, as we said, and then also increasing the transparency and empowering them to kind of go where they need to with a lesson and then refer back to this at any point and jump around. The key element, though, I mentioned earlier, is you really want to make sure to do this at the end of your bulb building because it will pull in automatically everything that you've already built out. And so you're essentially writing the book before you create the table of contents, right? Because you don't know exactly where the pages are going to be until you do that. So that's table of contents. The second one is the jump button, which you can build out through what's called the pause interaction, which is super versatile. It pauses the video and it gives you a space to type directions or instructions, add resources, links, or other features there as well. But oftentimes my colleagues call this jump button kind of the Netflix feature or Netflixing the jump button there, because if you've used Netflix before, you know that oftentimes you watch the intro to a show and it gives you the option to skip that intro with a button that exists on the screen. So we can create something similar here and create a button that can be clicked to jump ahead or jump to a different part of the bulb experience. So we can do that through the pause interaction. I'll show you in our demo how to create that particular piece of content. But that's what it looks like here on the right, and you can do it through that pause interaction. All right, and then the last one for choice-driven branching is the poll interaction, which, as I mentioned earlier, is essentially a multiple choice question, but there's no correct or incorrect answer. It's a great way to ask a self-assessment question for learners or give them a choice to where they want to go with this particular lesson, whether it's skipping ahead, reviewing another part of the lesson, or sharing an additional resource that you want them to choose the option of engaging with. So just to quickly recap where we're at here. So far, we've talked just about choice-driven branching with the table of contents, with the pause interaction using a jump button, and with the poll interaction here as well. So now at this point, I'm going to actually switch over into PlayPosit and build out a bulb with these three types of interactions, so you can see how to do that on your own as well. This is a great time to follow along if you are interested in testing it out on your own screen from your LMS or from just PlayPosit directly as well. So I'm going to pause maybe 30 seconds here, give people a chance to ask any questions maybe you have so far in the chat, or additionally, the LMS setup, get that ready, and if you want to follow along. All right, let's get into our demo here. I'm going to use the Canvas workflow because a lot of the schools that I work with often use Canvas, but I do want to mention that a lot of the other learning management systems have the same type of workflow or very similar workflow. If you want more details on that, maybe you're newer to the tool, that is in this interactive handout here, which was shared out in the chat earlier. There's a bit.ly link that you can use to access that. So all of those articles and tutorials are here for you based on what LMS you may be using. Or if you're not using an LMS, that's an option as well. But I'll show Canvas since that's pretty popular and kind of looks similar to many of the others as well. So I'm in my Canvas course here, and I'm just going to create a new assignment using this blue button in the top right corner. And I will call this our branched learning demo, February 1st, 2024. Now I'm going to scroll down here, and to access the PlayPosit tool, I will scroll to where it says submission type. And for Canvas users, you can go to external tool and click the find button right here. And then you'll have one option that says PlayPosit because that is all that will be available. Mine has a few extras for testing environments as well. And so I'm going to click that. And then when you click the PlayPosit button there, you'll see a gray screen. This is similar in pretty much any LMS that you're using. And this gray screen is a good sign. That means you're ready to enter PlayPosit, which you can do in two ways, either clicking enter PlayPosit or set the link. Those both take you to the same place. So I'll click set link, and you should land on your My Bulbs page, which may have content if you've been here before, or maybe not. But either way, we're going to build a brand new bulb today. So I'll click this button in the top left that says add new bulb. And when I do that, I'm going to be opening up a brand new tab, which enters me into the PlayPosit Instructional Design Studio. And from here, you're seeing on the right side the preview window, and on the left side here is the video source option. And for today, I'm going to use some YouTube videos on long division, everybody's favorite topic. I'm a former math teacher here, so that's definitely my favorite topic. I don't know about you all. I'll put in the chat here, or in the input URL section, I'll just paste my URL for my first video that I'm going to be using. And I'm not going to add any captions or trim and crop this one. I'll just bring it in right here by clicking done. Now, just to mention here, with PlayPosit, you can add one video and add interactions on top of it. But one of the cool things you can also do is add multiple videos that will play through sort of seamlessly as if they were one video from the learner's perspective. So I'm going to click this add video button right here and I'm going to add two more videos just by pasting in the URLs that I have ready to go in my lesson plan. And I'll just click done. And so on your screen, you can go ahead and add the video or videos that you want to use for your branch learning activity. And I've got one more here to add in. Again, I'm just using the input URL function. You can use the YouTube to search or Vimeo. If you have access to other video hosting services, you can use those too. But I'll paste that in. And so just like that, I've got my 3 videos on long division pulled in that I want my students to have access to in this bulb or this interactive video. And so that's my video piece here. I'm now going to go into building out some interactions by moving over to the interactions section here, or I can click this add interaction button. So my first one I'm going to add is just going to be a pause interaction to give kind of an overview of the lesson. It's not going to have any jump or branching features, but I just want to have that up front so that later on when I add my table of contents, students can go back to that overview or that intro if they need it. So I'm at 0, 0 with my scrub bar here on the bottom, and I'll click add interaction, and I will choose pause, which is in the middle left side of my menu. And then here, I mentioned this earlier, you have access to that rich text editor inside of the interaction builder here, which allows you to change the formatting and do some really cool things like add audio or images as well. So on my lesson plan, on my other screen, I'm just copying over my kind of overview of this lesson. And you'll notice some formatting is there as well. It comes across when I paste. And I do want learners to kind of see this on the main part of the screen. So I'm just going to go to step 2 here on the top and adjust my placement by hovering over until I have the full highlighting there so that the overview takes up the full screen as learners enter this bulb. All right, so again, this is not going to have any jumps or branch learning features, but it will be helpful later on as part of my table of contents. So I'm clicking done. Just like that, I've got my overview of the lesson right here. And I'm looking at it and there's kind of like some extra space in there. I'm noticing maybe I don't actually need all that space. So I'm just going to edit that real quick so it's a little bit tighter on the screen. And I just edited by clicking the 3 dots in the top right of that interaction and click edit. Notice this one's worth 0 points. I can change that, but in this case, I don't want the overview of the lesson to be worth any points for learners. Okay, so that's my pause interaction, just a quick overview of this lesson. But let's get into some of those branch learning features that we talked about earlier. So let's say that learners have been watching this video for about a minute now, and I'm going to scroll over to 1 minute in. And at this point, I want to give them the chance to decide, based on what they've seen so far, this first minute of the video, do they need to continue watching, or can they skip ahead to the second video, that more advanced content? So at this point, I'm at 1 minute. I want that sort of Netflix jump button to be available on the screen. So I'll click add interaction. And I mentioned this earlier, you can build this out through what's called a pause interaction. So I'll click that pause button. And then here inside the rich text editor, when I click inside this editor, there's this like mini menu that pops up right here. And there's something called jump available is actually the first option. It looks like a branched set of arrows. So when I click that, it'll give me this ability to insert a jump. And the text is what the button will say. So I want this one to say, I'm just going to copy from my other screen here. What I want it to say is skip to advanced content. And that's what I want learners to have the choice of doing. Then I have to put in my jump time here. Where do I want them to go if they click the button? And I happen to know that the second video starts around 8 minutes. So I'm just going to type in 8 minutes here. And then I change my styling effect. I usually just use primary button, which is kind of like a solid background. You pick the color, and then the font will be white. And I don't know, I'll choose maybe some light blue here. Click insert, and then that button will be available right there. If at any point I want to change that, I just click on that same jump button right there. And maybe I say, that color is kind of hard to see. Let's go with like a red, update it. Okay, how about that? So that is my jump button here. Now, you might be wondering, where is the button? I don't see it on the screen. And that's because we haven't adjusted the placement yet. So currently it's living on the sidebar, which maybe isn't where I want it to be. I want my learners to kind of see it right on top of the video layer. So let me go to step 2 here where it says placement, and then I'll just pick where I want it on the screen. Maybe I want it in the top left. Maybe I want it in the bottom right, more like Netflix. So I'll go bottom right. Now, the other piece here you might be wondering about is why is there that white background? Well, we can adjust that if we would like. So we just change the opacity under the advanced settings here inside placement. And I can actually just uh, drag that down to get rid of that background. I could even remove the ability to expand or collapse it so it kind of stays on the screen. And you can even move it to the right or left using these arrow buttons as well. So I'm going to kind of mess around a little bit with some of these buttons just to show you some of the abilities you have around moving the button on the screen. And once you like where it's at, how it looks, you can click done. But just to mention one more time, the opacity here is how you change that backdrop behind the button. So I want it to look like that. That's good for me. I also do want this button to kind of live on the screen for enough time that learners can see it while they're watching the video and have the chance to click it, right? I don't want it to last for 3 seconds and then they miss the opportunity. So I'm going to go to timing. And under the advanced settings, you can actually change the start and end time of that button. So maybe I want them to have, I don't know, 30 seconds seems like enough time to me. So how about a minute starting to a minute and 30 ending? And that way it'll last for 30 seconds. Now, the only other key thing here, this is going to sound kind of counterintuitive, is that this is currently a pause interaction, which means it will pause the video. But I actually don't want it to pause. I want the button to come up, they keep watching, and then they kind of click it if they want, or maybe they ignore it and let it go away. So I'm going to go to my interaction advanced settings and uncheck the interaction pauses video. I actually don't want it to pause. I just want it to stay on the screen while they watch that video and decide if they're going to skip or not. So again, this is a pause interaction, but you can actually not pause if you would like to just have that pop up without pausing the video. So this is one of my favorite ways to create some branch learning opportunities through that choice-driven pathway. So now when I click done, I know that a minute into the video, this button will pop up. It'll live on the screen for 30 seconds. While learners watch the video, they can click it, jump to 8 minutes, or ignore it, and then keep watching from that point. So that's the first one I wanted to show. I'm going to add the table of contents at the end of this demo because, again, it'll have everything built out inside of it. But for now, let's show one more of the choice-driven options, which is our poll feature. So let's say that learners have watched this video now for a while, and they're kind of coming to the end of that second video, which ends around 19 minutes, and I think it's 41 seconds, somewhere right around there. And maybe I want to just check in with them. How are you feeling about this advanced content at this point? Because they've now watched the second video. So I'm going to add an interaction here. This time I'm going to choose the poll. Poll is a great way to check in on some feedback for our learners. And I'll click that button. And then I'm just going to go ahead and paste my question in here, which is, how are you feeling about this advanced content? And I'll put my choices in. First one is just going to be good. Let's continue. In which case they're going to keep watching from that point. And maybe the second one is, hey, I need more help. Please take me back to the beginning. So they want to kind of rewatch and jump to the spot where that particular video started, which was around 8 minutes. So I've got my choices typed out here, but now I've got to build in two things. One, I want to jump them back to the 8-minute mark if they choose the I need help option. And the second thing is I want to add some feedback so they know what's about to happen when they click that option again. So first, let me click the gear here and add feedback to that second choice. And my feedback is just going to let them know you are going to be jumped back to the introductory video for review. The second thing is for that gear icon, if I click it again, I can also click add jump. And that's going to take them to whatever point I choose for that choice. So if they select, I need more help, add a jump, and let's take them. I'm just going to type in here 8 minutes, and that'll take them. Sorry, that was 8 seconds, I believe. Let's try that one more time. 8 minutes. There we go. Perfect. It'll take them back to 8 minutes if they choose that option. This poll question is going to come up on the sidebar by default. I can move it to the middle of the screen if I would like to, but I think I'm okay with keeping it on the sidebar here. So I will leave it like that, and I will just click done. Okay, so just to review where we're at before we head back to our slides and talk about consequence-driven branching, we've added just a pause interaction with an overview of the lesson at the beginning of our video. And then a minute in, we've got our jump button, which we created through the pause interaction. allowing our learners to skip to the advanced content if they would like. They can also ignore that and continue watching. And then the third thing we've done is we've added a choice here for them through the poll interaction to decide how they're feeling and if they want to continue or go back to the introductory lesson starting at 8 minutes and jump back by choosing that second choice. All right. Whew, that was a lot. Let's go back to the slides and shift some gears here, talking about the consequence-driven branching. But first, I'm going to just pause for another 20, 30 seconds in case anyone has questions that came up in the chat, or if you just need to catch up on wherever you're at with following along. All right, we are back here for the second part of our demo on this case is consequence-driven branching. To just give you a bit of an overview on that piece here, this is again where learners are experiencing the pathway or that branch learning based on the choices, rather based on the consequences of correct or incorrect answers. And so to do this inside of PlayPosit, we can use either our selected response interactions, like a multiple choice question or a check all, or we can use our fill in the blank interaction as well. So that's what it looks like. Let's go to considering the rigor here. This is an important point to kind of make here when we're thinking about consequence-driven branching. So when you're crafting those lessons and you're inside the instructional design studio, you want to consider, to what extent you want to make these questions difficult or rigorous for your learners. And the trade-off here is that, if you make them less rigorous, there is a chance that maybe they jump ahead in the lesson without actually fully mastering the content and understanding what they need to. So, for example, to get a little more specific with it, it'd be easier to guess a correct answer on a multiple choice question than a check all question. And even more rigorous than those would be the fill in the blank, where they actually have to type a response and there's no choices provided. So again, if the question is a little less rigorous, like a multiple choice, there is that risk that learners kind of guess or get lucky and get it correct and then jump ahead past some of the necessary content before they're actually ready to do so. So I just want to kind of name that consideration when it comes to considering rigor around consequence-driven branching. But now I'm going to go back into the demo and we're going to build out these types of interactions, a multiple choice, check all, and a fill in the blank, show you how to do some branch learning with those. And then we'll come back to the slides to share some resources and take any other questions that come up as well. So heading back to my bulb that I was creating, and I'm about halfway done here, but I've got to continue finishing this one for my learners. So let's go ahead and build out some consequence-driven branching interactions. And I'll start with multiple choice. So let's say that maybe 2 minutes into the video, I want to just give my learners a chance to complete a quick math problem and see if they've got this skill down yet. So I moved my scrub bar down to 2 minutes, and now I'm going to click add an interaction. And this time I'm going to choose one of my question types, which is multiple choice. Okay, now the question is going to be a division problem. So I'm going to lean on my math equation editor here, which is one of my favorite features inside of PlayPosit as a former math teacher. So when you click in the rich text editor and you see that little mini menu pop up, right in the middle you have what says FX, and that is our equation editor. And from there you can type in your math problem with whatever symbols you might need. So I'm just going to hover over this plus sign here and find the division symbol. And then I will type my problem, 43 divided by 5 equals. And notice that on the bottom here, it has a preview of what that will look like when the learner experiences this. So I'm going to click OK. And that will get pulled into my rich text editor here as I build out this multiple choice question. And let me type a couple answers that learners might choose. 7 remainder 2. Let's do 8 remainder 3 and 9 remainder 4. Okay, so I've got my 3 choices. Now for this experience, I want learners to jump to the next video if they get this correct, because they're demonstrating mastery and competency in this case. So I want to give them that chance to skip ahead by doing that. So I'm going to click the correct answer as 8 remainder 3. And I'm also going to do what I did earlier and add some feedback for them so they know what's happening. So let me click that gear icon next to that choice, choose add feedback. And I want to let them know that because they demonstrated competency here, they're going to be jumped forward in the video. Now that I've done that, I also need to add the jump here. So I can do that in 2 ways. One is I can click on that jump option there and put a jump button for them to click on. But what I'd prefer to do is just click this gear icon and add the jump so that it automatically happens once they click the choice, they see the feedback, they can click continue, and it'll take them to this timestamp. And I'm going to pick that same one from earlier, the 8-minute timestamp, where they will get to watch that start from the beginning of the second video. And maybe I'll just type this in to get it perfectly accurate here, because my dragging is not working exactly as I want. Great, so I'm at 8 minutes, and that's going to be where they go to if they choose that answer. If they choose the first or third choices, they'll just keep watching the video from that point, and they will not be skipping ahead. So again, this is a consequence-driven branching option because it is based on the choice they make. They have a consequence, which in this case is a good one, right? They're getting jumped ahead in the video for answering that correctly. All right, done. That's in there at 2 minutes in. They'll experience that question with that potential for jumping ahead. Now let's say I want to do maybe a check all question and just see if they have the steps down for long division. And so this time, how about I go to 8 minutes in, which is right here. Great. Add an interaction, and this time I'm going to choose check all. And for this one, I'm just going to ask them, what are the 4 steps for long division? And I will type out a few of these steps real quick. Divide, add, multiply, subtract, and bring down. All right, and then I'm going to check off the correct answers, which are everything except for adding. Now, this is my check all question that learners have to respond to. It's a little bit more rigorous than that multiple choice because there's more than one choice that is correct here that they need to select. What I want to do here is I want them to have the option to jump, or I want to give them the consequence of jumping, in this case, if they get the question incorrect. Maybe I want them to go back to the beginning of the video and watch it again. So here, now because there's more than one correct choice, I can't add a jump to one of the choices and not the others, but I can go to the advanced settings, and I have 2 options that are really powerful here. So look at the very bottom of the advanced settings, and you have the choice of either jump the user if their answer is correct, or jump if the user answers incorrect. So you're choosing which way you want them to go. Since I did the last one correct, jump ahead, I'll use this one to show the opposite, jump if they answer incorrectly, and we will send them back to 0, 0, let's say to the beginning of the video. So jump if they answer incorrectly, that's in the advanced settings option, and I can drag this wherever I want, but I'll keep it at 0, 0 for this example. So I'm clicking done right there. And now I've got my check all question added in at the 8-minute mark with a consequence-driven jump back to 0, 0 if they answer incorrectly. All right, we've got one more to show for this demo, and that's the fill in the blank, which is even more rigorous because, again, there's no choices. They have to type their blank in the rich text editor. Okay, so here we go. Let's do this one at, how about 20 minutes and 25 seconds in. They mention the vocabulary word dividend, and I want to make sure that they got that. So I'm going to go right there. And once I'm at that point, I'll click Add Interaction. This time I'm choosing the fill in the blank option. And I'll just type my question stem here, and when I want to put my blank in, I can click Add Input Blank, or actually the second option here in the menu is fill in the blank as well. Either one will add a little blank, and then I'll type the rest is the number we're dividing up. All right. And thank you, Grammarly, for the help there. And I can type more than one choice here. So I'll type dividend and hit enter on my keyboard, but maybe there's some misspellings that I want to allow for as well. So I can kind of copy and paste in or type out and hit enter for each of the misspellings that I want to allow. Maybe that's something that I'm okay with in this case. So I put a couple of misspellings in there, and that's good for me. Now, notice here, I could add feedback for this question as well, but there is a potential for adding more than one blank here or more than one sentence that they can fill in. So again, notice this time to jump learners, it's again in the advanced settings, similar to the one we just did with that check all interaction. So again, choose here at the bottom. Do you want them to jump if they answer correctly, incorrectly? Up to you. I'll go incorrect in this case and just send them back about 30 or 40 seconds to where they learn that vocabulary word. And so let me send them back to about 1941, where the, not the year, but the timestamp, where the beginning of the third video or end of the second video is. All right, so again, check all and fill in the blank both have that jump option in the advanced settings where you can allow for that consequence-driven branching. Either correct or incorrect can jump them to a certain part in the video. So I'll click done. All right, and just like that, I've got a handful of ways that learners are going to kind of have personalized instruction here, whether it's choice or consequence driven. The last one that I said I would do earlier, but not until the end, is the table of contents. So just to show that as well here, for this one, I do want it to live in the beginning of the video and exist for the duration of my bulb experience. Kind of like in a book, when you're reading, you have that table of contents you can always refer back to get a sense of where you're at in the story. So I'm going back to 0, 0 with my scrub bar, and I'm clicking Add Interaction. Now this one is under the templates section on the bottom. And so notice it says Table of Contents right here. And if I click that, this does the work for you. It actually automatically brings in instructions. Click the bullet points to jump to a specific video or underline or interaction. And then it brings in all of the sections. Sections are the videos. So if there's one video, it'll be one section. In this case, I have 3 videos. And the bullet points are some of the interactions here that I have built out and the timestamps that they exist at. Now notice you can actually click on these and change and type the wording that you want for that. So maybe I want to call this one the overview, or this one is the skip to advanced content button. So you can call that whatever you would like. The link is still there that takes you to that point. You can even rename the video here. So just keeping that jump button the way it is all you need to do, but changing the type or the font or anything like that is totally fine as well. You can even change the name. You know, this can be video 1, or you can call it beginner division, whatever it is that you want to title that as well. By default, this interaction exists on the sidebar, just like all the others. And the timing is also defaulted to duration of the whole video from the beginning to the end. But learners can, hide that and then come back and access it at any point. It kind of lives on the side menu there. So that is the table of contents. Again, it's really easy to just pull that in. It's a template. You don't have to do any work to add that. But you may want to make some edits to the names of the interactions instead of calling them multiple choice or pause. And you may want to just adjust the font a little bit as well, or directions if that's helpful for you. But once you've got that, you do it at the end. Everything's pulled in automatically. You click done. And so at this point, I feel pretty good about where I'm at with this lesson. I've got, just to review, my overview of the lesson that happens at 0, 0. I've got my table of contents that exists throughout the bulb and is available on the sidebar for my learners to jump around as they need. I've got my Netflix button, my jump button there for them to skip ahead. I've got some consequence and choice-driven questions that exist throughout the bulb to check for understanding and give learners both choice and some consequences for where they're at to kind of hold them accountable for their learning. So that's it for the interaction piece. I'm now going to just review and make sure this kind of final step here is complete. And so I'll call this one my branched learning long division bulb. I can add an objective. I can add some tags. Maybe I want to add a tag for branch learning. Just have to type that in and click enter. And I can also change my target audience or my subject here. Under the tag section, you can change the playback options. This is really important. And I'm going to mention this in the slides, but I'll just say it now as well and kind of show you it. You need to make sure a couple of things are checked to allow this bulb to function properly. This is really important for branched learning. So let's actually go to the slide for a moment and then we'll come back to this. All right, check this out, bulb settings. So learners have to be able to fast forward and skip interactions, right? Because they're going to be jumping around in this video, and we want to make sure that that happens seamlessly. So these first three options allow learners to rewind, skip, fast forward. Those will allow this to work seamlessly. So we're going to want to make sure those three are checked. I'm going to just do that right now in my bulb. 1, 2, 3. And I'm just applying those to all the existing interactions that I have. The other thing I can decide to do, which I personally like to give the ownership to learners in this way, is let them download their printable report. If it's not a high stakes assessment of any kind and you just want them to have the ability to download what they interacted with and all the information that they learned in that bulb, you can check this second to last option as well and let them download that report, which is right here. In this case, 2 below that last one I checked. So that's an option as well. Another one you can choose is increase playback speed if you wanted to be able to speed it up, but I'll leave that the way it is currently. So just to name one more time, you do need to check those first three, allow them to rewind, skip, fast forward, because they're going to be doing that through some of these jump features of the branch learning bulb. All right, last but not least is privacy. You can set that however you would like based on your needs and the needs of your district or your school. I'll keep mine private for now. Actually, I'll upgrade it to members of my school or site. Click save. And then you have the option of clicking preview and actually watching that bulb and kind of engaging with it as well. We can just do that for a moment here and just see what that might look like. So I've got my objective. I've got my table of contents here. I can jump around in that way. Or I can watch. And just to kind of show you, there's my jump button. It pops up at 1:30, and I can click through and see all the elements that I've created in this. I can also close out my table of contents and come back to that later on. So I'm not going to take you through the entire bulb experience here, but this is a good way to preview and practice what it looks like before you officially assign it out to your learners. But let's say you're done, you click save, you go back to your learning management system, close that out, and I'm going to link it. So for those who are new to doing this, if you're in Canvas, it looks similar for other LMSs, but look for the logo of your LMS. In this case, it's Canvas for me, or it could be Schoology for you. You click that bulb link right there, that little logo, and then you can assign that by clicking link. And then that will be assigned to my learners. I'll just click save and publish it so that it's there live in my course. And from there, I've got the ability to preview that bulb, download the data, or monitor it and see where my students are at. You can even click the student view in Canvas and see what that looks like as a learner as well, which is embedded right here inside of this assignment. So that's the full demo for branch learning. I know that was a lot of information, but hopefully you were able to follow along with some of it. And this session is being recorded, so you can always come back and watch any part of this again if you would like. But to close out, we've got about 10 minutes left here, which we may not need all of, but I will just share a couple of resources and make a little more space for some questions. I don't see any in the chat currently, but you are welcome to ask at any point if you would like. Some resources for you all. We've got some great customer resources available. These are inside of PlayPosit. Let me just show that real quick. On the left sidebar menu, under the last option, it says Customer Resources, which will take you to this page, which has a ton of great resources. It has our PlayPosit Academy, which is an asynchronous way to learn more about using the tool. Highly recommend checking that out and sharing it with others who are using PlayPosit. We've got our webinar series, which you are currently watching one of right now. You can view the upcoming webinars, watch the previous ones, register for upcoming webinars as well. We've got our use case library. You can explore some ideas that people have shared for using the tool. And then one of my favorites is the help articles, which are incredible and super helpful for learning more about the tool. So you can search that knowledge base right here in the bottom left of that page. And last but not least, we have our office hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you need some live support, which is great. And then the first Friday features, periodically have those new sessions on some features that are coming out to share. So that's the customer resources page. This is the one-stop shop for PlayPosit resources. You definitely should check it out if you need some help or looking to learn more about the tool. And then we do have, if you're short on time, some quick YouTube tutorials that exist on our PlayPosit YouTube page. These are awesome. They're typically 2 to 5 minutes and are geared towards specific topics that you may want to learn more about. And I mentioned office hours, but I'll say it one more time. One-on-one support, live help, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11:30 and 3:30 Eastern for some help there. That is a great opportunity to join. But the last piece here is our feedback survey. So always looking to grow, learn, and get better in helping you all. So please feel free to share in the survey, which I'm putting the link in the chat right now. Share that feedback with us, please. And we appreciate you doing that if you have a moment. And thank you to my colleague, Jason, who just added it. I will delete my comment, so it's only in there one time. All right, great. That is all for now, folks, but I will keep this question slide up and stick around for a few more minutes to see if anyone wants to share questions in the chat with us, and we can go from there. But thanks so much, Danielle. Appreciate you joining, and I'll stick around for a few more minutes, and so will Jason, in case there's any questions. All right, and while we're waiting just another minute or two, thanks so much, David, for joining. Appreciate your time. While we're waiting just another minute or two for any final questions or thoughts, I'll just review briefly our handout that was shared earlier in the chat, that bit.ly link. This has the feedback form that we just shared as well. Appreciate your thoughts there. LMS or learning management system specific resources, knowledge-based articles, and video tutorials. Those are for any of those LMSs there, or if you're just using PlayPosit without an LMS. And then some really cool branch learning examples here, A, B, C, and D. We talked about some of these today, but if you want to check those out in the future, they're right there for you. And then I mentioned the knowledge-based articles generally, but here's some specific ones to to branch learning. So those are right there for you. And the PlayPosit Academy videos that are for this topic as well. So this is like your one-page reference guide for this session. But I'm going to stick around for one more minute, and then we'll close out after that. And I'm monitoring the chat, and so is my colleague Jason for any questions that come up. I was on mute there. Looks like we're ready to close out. So I just want to say thanks again for the time, whether you watched this with us live or the recording, and looking forward to seeing you next time around. Have a great day.